Hello again from my front porch. Well, actually, I'm in not even the front living room, the back living room, the family room. Family room here at my friend Tara's house. You've met Tara before. Hi, Tara.
Hi.
Tara,
Hi, guys.
Tara, of course, being my state fair food buddy, among other things, and the provider of mac and cheese that is incredibly, wonderfully awesome. But also today we're here talking about something that's very special to me and now to Tara as well, and that is this subtly placed book thing back here. Because Tara actually has a copy of it. In fact, if you get the book and you open it at the beginning and you see the list of people who were acknowledged and thanked for their support during that time, you'll see Tara's name listed amongst those people. So very appreciative of Tara's friendship over the years, and certainly as I was putting the book stuff together, all the support because there were times that it was a little trying, a little tough, but there were.
I'd bring you something to eat.
Yeah. She made sure that I did not suffer for brain food. But the reason that I'm talking with Tara is because I have discussed before about the book and about what some other companies are doing. Tara was sharing with me about some of the things, ways that she actually she's not just reading it because I like Paul and so I'm reading his book. She's read it and she's found ways to apply it. And so what we're going to talk about now, I'm going to have Tara share a little bit about what it is, how she is applying the concepts. So just to summarize, for those who have not read the book, I don't know why not, because it's available all over the place. But for those who have not read the book yet, it's about structured on-the-job training. And basically, in as small as nutshell as I can make it, everybody says they do on-the-job training. Everybody says we train our people and we give them on-the-job experience. And what they really mean is they train them in a classroom for whatever period of time, and then they kick them out onto the job and say, get your experience. But there's usually very little guidance around that experience. There's very little definition as to what it is they're supposed to learn. There's lack of uniformity, and then there's really no way to measure whether they were successful, and all this kind of stuff that you get in a classroom, but you don't get when you're doing the on-the-job training, which is a shame because the on-the-job training is where the real meat and potatoes of them actually perfecting the skills of the job happen. And so that's the whole point of the book, The Learning While Working, is to help people put together a training program that will help their on-the-job training program actually be structured, actually be something that can be measured, that can be treated seriously. Now, Tara has been using it, though, in a way that is a little bit different, not radically different, but she's found an application for it that is unlike any other that I've heard so far. And I've heard many different applications, many different other benefits other than just better training that comes from this. Tara, however, has a situation. First of all, Tara, I'd like you to tell us about your daughter. Make sure they understand the situation of what's going on.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about what's going on, how you're using the stuff in the book.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me make clear, I did start reading the book because you're my dear friend, and I'm reading it because I couldn't just have a signed copy and be like, yeah, and I haven't read it, but I did. Here's how I started reading it. Then as I started reading, I'm like, I can do this. This has a point. And there was especially one part in there that got me in the first part where you talk about on-the-job training and how a new employee can pick up bad habits from maybe a disgruntled employee who's not quite as happy. And that got me to thinking on how I could use it. First of all, I am the proud mother of a 26-year-old who has autism, along with bipolar, high anxiety disorder, and ADHD. So she stays in a group site. She has her own apartment with 2 other roommates, and she has 24-hour care. And so there's staff constantly coming in. There's somebody with them at all times. There's 3 shifts, 7 days a week. So we have up to 5 individuals at the house site at one time, or during the time. The issue is unfortunately, it is a very underemployed, is that the right word? Field. So the turnover,
high turnover.
Yeah, the high turnover rate. And they do the same thing. They train them in the office or in and then they kick them out nicely, I'm sure, to do on the job, because each site is different. Each individual is different.
Well,
each
and
roommate's different.
That actually is a really good example of where on-the-job training sometimes fails, is in a situation, an industry like you're talking about that has such high demand but low supply of workers,
Right.
that if they get a warm body that walks in the door that is capable of doing stuff, they'll try to put them through the official classroom training as quick as possible because they need to get them out in the field. Well, that means they're potentially shoving them out into the field before they're necessarily completely ready. It's not that they're an incompetent person, but in that role they may not have competence because they really haven't had a chance to learn the skills and do them very well. And
Sure, let's go with
that's what you've encountered.
Yes.
Yeah.
On a nice front. Yes. Not everybody's ready for every field, but since I am extremely involved parent / guardian, I'm there also to help train when they get to the on-the-job part, which is where I've taken some keynotes from you. I have written out an additional manual that they can use once they get out of their official training and they're in the site. The first thing they do is I have a book. It's called Danita's Care Instructions. It's written on a very not technical scale, and a very, to make sure that everyone can understand it. And I have them read it in addition to what they've already learned. And there's some other stuff that the company provides to explain, you know, her different needs, and she has certain goals that they're supposed to be working on, and so forth and so on. So then I come in with extra training, and when we go through that, and I ask some questions once they've interacted with my daughter and her roommates for a while, you know, how'd that go? How'd that work out? And I'll get different feedback, and then I'll incorporate the next level. I'll talk to them about the people that they were training with on the job, because they do shadowing, so they don't just kick them out completely and here's some information. So they'll shadow another person, and since I know the person that they're shadowing with, I also kind of get an idea of where that person's needs improvement on, so I can step in and make sure that they don't fall into, don't pick up those necessarily
those bad habits. Because as you know, this is sounds so cliche authoring, but as I say in the book, but you know, there is that cliche that says that practice makes perfect.
Yes.
And that's only true if the practice itself is perfect. Bad practice makes bad habits, and bad habits can be really tough to break. And so it's certainly better to try to reinforce what should be done right away, so that becomes the habit. And so it sounds like what you've done with the binder that you've put together and the additional training that you're doing with them, that you're outlining for them, these are the things that you're expected to be able to do with my daughter. Not just you know, a checklist of make sure she's, you know, done this before bed, check. I mean, there's probably some of that in there.
That's the first part of the book. They get that first part, and then I let them go on for a week or so, and then I bring in the second part of the structured training and tell them, okay, if this should happen, this is what you should do. You will experience this. This is what you should do. And then I'll sit down with them and ask them, you have any questions whatsoever? And I always tell them, you can never ask me too many questions. I'm one of the type of guardian where you can call me at any given time. Swear for God, I go nowhere without my cell phone, so that they could call me. So there's the first part where they do have the checklist of, you know, this is her daily routine. She gets up, she washes her face, you know, extremely detailed, because she has to have a structured routine. So they'll go through that one, and I'll give it about a week after they're training with whichever person they're shadowing with, and it could be different people. Then I have a separate manual that I come back in, because I know some of the employees' gripe points with the company. So I'll come back in and say, you know, you may have experienced XYZ, this is how you handle it in this site, or this is my expectations from this site. And my second phase has been evolving. based on the feedback that I get from the people that come. So I can reincorporate and say, well, okay, you got a point there. Let me add this notation in here.
So your first phase is kind of giving them basic nuts and bolts. These are the really key things that you just process. You need to be able to do these things in these order because of the autism, but other things. Well, I mean, she needs a structured pattern. She needs a no matter who that worker is, they need to be following the same order of events. Otherwise, it'll mess her up. It'll mess up the day. And so
will have a ripple effect, just like a stone in water.
Yep.
Just very structured.
Spin out of control fast. So the first part is giving them that what may be literally a checklist, but an itemized structure. But then the second piece that you're talking about is where you're actually then saying, okay, so now there's that basic stuff, that basic skill things. But it sounds like your second piece is really more, now let's talk about some of the skill, the art of working with my daughter. That it's not just go through this checklist, check, and then sit back and kick your feet up. It's these are the nuances, these are the emotional things, these are the other subtle things that may happen, and how to deal with those as well. So that even though you are just a cell phone call away, they don't always have to call you for everything.
Right. The goal is eventually for her to be as independent as possible, with their help, but eventually, I should be able to step back. I'm sure that never happened because, well, she's my one and only baby, but still.
I can't imagine you ever being a disengaged mother. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah. But the second phase, I took more from you, and I'll get feedback from them. And like I said, that second phase is evolving, and I'll go back every so often. Well, I'm always there, but I'll go back specifically and have them sit down now. You tell me, what did you learn from this person? What did you learn from that person? And then I can go back and I can bring out my book and say, well, yeah, this can happen in this situation, but truly this is how it should be. Because there's certain things that are not really taught in the classroom.
Well, honestly, and again, that's one of the structure on the job training things. It's one of the values of it is that there's stuff you just can't teach in the classroom.
There is.
At the best you could, and the example that I use in the book, but the example that I like to cite is when I was a kid, and did you read the story? Well, of course you read the book. The story of me learning to change a tire. I learned in driver's ed. They showed us a video and all the pieces and said, change a tire. And I went home and told my dad that we'd done that in driver's ed that day. And he said, yeah, but did you actually change a tire? And I said, well, we were told that there were just too many of us in the class. It would take too long. And that was not the answer my dad wanted to hear. And so that night we went out to the driveway and I changed all 4 tires. I took all 4 tires off and put them back on our car under his direct supervision. By the end of that night, I knew how to change a tire for real, how to actually, do the things. Because just sitting and hearing someone talk about it, watching a video, handling the stuff in a classroom, there's just no way to know the skill of how to do those things. You have to learn it and practice it in the real world, in the field.
In the field, yes. Right. And I took that story. My daughter, one of her goals in life is she's not good at cooking. She's definitely afraid of the stove and anything hot. Oh. And she takes instruction. You have to be very careful in how you give her instruction, especially when she's scared, frightened, and her anxiety level's high. They teach them in the classroom, and in my book it tells them that this is how you need to help her cook.
Yeah.
When if you're cooking something, she should be the one get out all the ingredients, set out all the pots, what have you. And when you come to the hot stove for turning something on, and that's when she needs the more instruction. But you can just tell people that without. You still have to go, and I still went in and said, okay. One of my daughter's favorite dishes is spaghetti.
Yeah. This
is A, how you make spaghetti, and B, this is how you would instruct her. So
which are two different things.
Which are 2 different things, yeah.
This is how you make spaghetti that she wants, that she'll eat. It's not how would you make spaghetti, it's how does she expect it to be made.
Exactly.
And then there's how do you work with her to help her make it herself.
Yeah. And I do it in 2 stages over 2 nights, or 2 weeks, because she can't have spaghetti. Spaghetti twice, but the first time I have my daughter sit and watch, but I'll explain to the staff, this is how she likes her spaghetti. Can't use too much salt, not too much seasoning. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, ground the ground beef this way. This is how I've taught my daughter to do it, because everything needs to be structured, and people do everything differently, especially with cooking. And well, my cooking skills are a little different than some others.
Yeah. They're incredible.
I do like to cook. But so I go and I tell them this is the way that I've taught my daughter to cook. And I'll show them how to do it. And I'm like, okay, you understand how to do that? And they're always like, yeah, no problem. Well, then the next week I'll go back over and I said, okay, now here, you teach her how to cook.
Yeah.
And I'll sit back on the little island and just watch and I'll give them instruction. Okay, well, you need to be a little closer to her. You need to step back a little more. You're too far in her personal space. That type of thing. And then, you change your tone a little bit, just little nuances.
Yep.
Which I got from your book.
Well, it's amazing because again, the reason that we're having this conversation is because Tarah is putting into practice the concepts that are in the book. That some people would be tempted to pick up the book and go, well, sure, if I work for a big corporation, this stuff would apply. Blah blah blah. But I don't see. Here you are, one parent with their daughter, with their one child. Now you're experiencing high turnover in the caregivers that are coming through, and you are developing a way to onboard, to bring on to as quickly as possible those individuals that get assigned to work with her, but in a way that there is a consistency, that there is an expectation of quality. And even now what you're talking about is it's not just defining stuff that you could sit down with them and say, okay, now here's this checklist, go through this, check. You're now talking about when you're talking about the personal space. How would you explain that in a classroom?
In a classroom.
Or even just in a conversation like this. Well, don't get this close or that close. You have to actually be there with your daughter, and in a situation where it can make sense, where it can register. So I see. This is why I was so excited. This is why I wanted to talk to you about this stuff, because this is the first time I've heard of somebody taking the concept. Now maybe others are, they just haven't told me yet. but
for the record, I'm giving the book to the agency too.
Oh, cool! Yeah, yeah. That's it. They make great Christmas gifts.
They're CEO of training. I'm doing.
Well, and I appreciate that as well. But again, what I really liked about this is here you are, an individual person using this in a way that is unlike anything that I've heard of before, context wise. But you are proving that the concepts in the book really are have no boundary. Yeah. That they can be applied in literally any situation. In fact, it's kind of funny now that I mentioned that. The first time that I spoke on this topic at the ATD's International Conference, I had one individual, I think it was supposed to be a complaint. I'm pretty sure it was, based on their feedback. One person that wrote what they considered a negative complaint. Their negative complaint was that they came to the session expecting to see a session that was focused on how to do on-the-job training for skill-based employees, but what they heard was something that could apply to almost anything. And I read that and I thought, as complaints go, I'll accept that one. Because actually it can. And again, you now are giving this actual real world testimonial of something that breaks not just out of the corporate world, but just the business world period, and in a one-on-one caregiver situation, that you're able to put these to use. So I think that's very exciting. I like that.
Yeah. So we have a manual based off that on how to cook, how to clean the bathroom, and what's the proper way to wash clothes, as per my daughter.
Yep.
Because everybody has different ways to do things, but as per her, this is the way you do it.
Yeah. Well, and at the heart of a structure of the job training program is determining what is considered to be a measurement of competency. It's not just a checklist. You do these things in this order. It's saying that you demonstrate competence in these measurable, observable kind of things. And so what you're describing is you do have checklists of things to do, but the spaghetti one is I think a great example. You have a checklist that says these are the ingredients and put in this amount of this and this amount of that. I'm sure you've got that spelled out. But just giving a list of ingredients is not enough to prepare spaghetti the way your daughter wants it.
Right.
And especially when you flip it around and say, now you're going to coach my daughter in doing it herself. There's now other aspects that go beyond just the list of ingredients involved with that. And so all of that then takes it from that traditional checklist that people would think, oh, that on-the-job training is just a bunch of checks, check. But now you're again applying this so that you're actually talking about areas of competency, that it's not just can you read a checklist of ingredients, but can you competently, number one, prepare it, and number two, can you competently explain it and guide her to do it herself. And you know, you're going to get this checklist, you're going to get your, not checklist, you're going to get your guide thing all done, and you know, you'll give the company the book and they'll read through it, and then they'll say, hey, you know, can we buy your list off you? Can we buy your book off you? We want to use it with some other people. See, now you're going to have your own book.
Yeah.
And it'll be on the shelf next to mine.
Yeah. I'll stick to my accounting. Writing, I'll leave to you. You'll be my ghostwriter.
I'll help. Yeah.
I'll do the finances behind it.
It'll be like what? Learning while working, and next to it, learning while cooking spaghetti. You know, the funny thing is, more people would probably buy that one. Spaghetti looks much more entertaining than working.
Not the way I cook it. You never know.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you, Tarah, very much for sharing your story with us. And again, I'm really excited with how you're using that. And
comes in handy, really.
I love just hearing stories in general of people that make use of this. But again, most of the stories come from, you know, the business world, the work world, the different kind of things. And so when Tarah shared me about how she was applying these concepts with her daughter and this situation, I was like, that's so awesome. So I was glad that Tarah was willing to share with us the story first person too. Because if I tried to share that story, I would have botched it. So.
Well, what also helps me is, as I'm doing it, I don't come off too much as the controlling, guardian, crazy person. So when the higher ups,
you hide that well.
When the higher ups in the corporation see that what I'm doing, and they're kind of like, well, you're doing no, I'm doing Paul's book. See,
oh yeah,
I have a copy.
Yeah. See, so now I'm the resource to fall back on. No, this professional person that wrote this book says,
yes.
Well,
this
I'm glad to be of assistance.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, it sounds like you're getting a call. Is that?
I am.
Is that? Do you need a call in?
It is. That's our special ringtone.
All right. Well,
thank you, guys.
So I will let you go, and I'll see you all next time from my front porch.